Good afternoon and welcome back to Stories with Don, reading Robin Hood. And we are on chapter 16, and it is entitled Robin Hood Becomes a Butcher. One morning, Robin Hood woke with a restless feeling in his heart. This quiet time was irking him. He felt that he must undertake some adventure, and he made up his mind to go to Nottingham and see how things were faring in the town. He said nothing of his intention to Little John, for he knew that his faithful follower would urge him not to venture into such a nest of enemies, but he slipped away by himself. He took care that he should not be easily recognized, for to be known for Robin Hood inside the walls of Nottingham town would be a dangerous business. So he put off his dress of Lincoln green, donned a plain russet suit, and went his way looking like a worthy yeoman or tradesman. Within 2 or 3 miles of the town, Robin came to a place where two roads met, and here he saw a butcher going to market with a fine mare. Over the back of the mare were slung panniers full of meat. "Good morrow, good fellow," cried Robin. "Where do you dwell, and whither are you going?" "No matter where I dwell," replied the other. "I am a butcher, and I'm going to Nottingham to sell my meat." "Say you so?" cried jolly Robin, into whose mind a plan had just come. "Why now, it is my great fancy to become a butcher. Will you sell?" "Sell what?" said the butcher. "The mare, the panniers, and the load of meat," replied Robin. "Come, put your own price on them." "The price of my meat and the mare," replied the butcher, "is 4 marks, and that is cheap enough." "4 marks I will give at once," answered Robin, and he drew out his purse. The money was counted into the hand of the butcher, and the bargain was completed on the spot. The butcher turned home, and Robin Hood drove the mare on towards Nottingham. "Now," thought Robin, "I shall enter the town with as innocent an air as one would wish. Who will look twice at a tradesman coming to market with his load?" He drove the mare through the gates without looking to right or left, and no man challenged him. He went into the market and found the stall which the butcher used, and set his meat on it. Soon the butcher's row became busy with people who had come marketing, and the butchers began to shout, "Come, buy, 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 fine and prime meat, come, buy, buy, buy." When Robin heard the other butchers crying their wares, he began to cry his too. And when customers came, he gave them, in his ignorance, as much meat for a penny as other butchers were giving for 3. The news of this soon got abroad, and Robin's stall was crowded with buyers, while his rival sold nothing at all. The butchers began to scratch their heads and stare at each other. "Who is this newcomer?" they said. "He will ruin us. He sells as much for 1 penny as we do for 3. We shall get no customers at all." Some of them began to sell a little cheaper, but still the buyers thronged about Robin. "This is some prodigal fellow," said one of the butchers. "He has sold his father's land and is wasting the money in this stupid fashion." "Aye," said another, or he hath stolen his beasts and can sell very cheap." "Listen to me," said a third. "He is, mayhap, some gallant in disguise who is selling cheap meat to win a wager." "Let us become acquainted with him," said a fourth. "I will go up to him and ask him to join us at the butcher's feast today." So here's a picture of Robin selling his meat at the market. Got a big old ham on there, it looks like. So he stepped up to Robin, who was just standing over the last joint on the stall, and said, "Come, brother, we be all of one trade, and should know each other better. Will you dine with us today, for it is the day of the butcher's feast?" "Indeed, yes," said jolly Robin. "I will go to feast with you, my true brethren, as fast as I can." "Good," said the other. "The feast is to be held at the house of the sheriff. We will go there together." So when the market was over, the butchers trooped off to the sheriff's house. Robin grinned to himself as he went into the hall and saw the mean, miserly-looking old sheriff sitting pompously there at the head of the table. If yonder old hunks but knew who I was, there would be a fine to-do, thought bold Robin. The feast was set on the long table, and Robin, as the youngest butcher there, was asked to say grace, and he did so. Then he called upon the company to drink as deeply as they pleased at his expense. "Come, brothers, be merry," said jolly Robin. "Let us drink and never give over, for I'll pay the shot ere I go if it costs me more than 5 pounds. "This is a mad blade," said one of the butchers in the sheriff's ear, and he told the story of Robin and the cheap meat. The sheriff pursed his lips and shook his head. "He is some wild prodigal," said the sheriff, "who has sold his land and is getting rid of the money as fast as he can." "That's just what we thought," replied the butcher. "We said the very same thing." During the rest of the feast, the sheriff ate and drank but little. He was deep in thought, and ever and anon he cast a sly and wily glance at Robin. "That careless spendthrift is casting his money from him with both hands, I know," said the sheriff to himself. "Why should I not get some of it?" And the sheriff sighed as he thought of his empty treasure house, which so sorely needed refilling. "I may get a little from him," reflected the sheriff, "and I am thankful for even small gains, since I was stripped so completely by that arch-rogue Robin Hood and his knave of followers." So, when the feast was over, the sheriff took a seat beside the young butcher and began to talk pleasantly with him. "I have heard of the joke you played this morning," said the sheriff, wrinkling his nutcracker face into a harsh grin, as if he loved the joke as well as anyone. "You put the curb on our butchers with your splendid penny's worth of meat." "I fear me, but I made a lame hand of it," replied Robin. "The truth is, I am new at the trade, and I scarce know the value of beasts as of yet." "Have you many?" asked the sheriff smoothly. "Hundreds," replied Robin, "and they pasture on 100 acres of good free land." "Why, that is a very pretty little estate," returned the sheriff. "Well enough," replied Robin carelessly, "but I would gladly change it for ready money." "Aye, aye," thought the sheriff to himself, "here is your true spendthrift, always eager to get money to spend on his pleasures. Beshrew me if I turn not this to great advantage." Then he spoke aloud. "Why then, have you not already sold your beasts and land?" "I have found no purchaser," said Robin, yawning and stretching his arms. "Though to be sure I am willing to sell at an easy rate, but none seems to have money to buy." "True, true," said the sheriff. "Times are hard and money is scarce. But sooner than you see a lack of purchaser, I would make a bid myself." "How much would you give?" asked Robin. The sheriff named a sum, about 1/10 of the value of the estate which Robin had described, and Robin agreed instantly to take it. They shook hands on the bargain, and the sheriff secretly chuckled to himself to think how neatly he was stripping this wild spendthrift. "The day is not far spent," said Robin. "What say you to an hour's ride to see the beasts and the land?" "With all my heart," said the sheriff, "and I will bring the money, pay you on the spot, and take possession at once." "Good," said Robin. "Short bargains make long friends. And I protest and vow that I will make over the beasts and land to you as freely as ever my father made them over to me." Then he smiled to himself as the sheriff hurried away to get the money and order a horse for the ride. In a short time they set out, Robin riding the mare he had bought from the butcher, and the sheriff riding his own nag. Robin took the road which skirted the Sherwood forest, and soon they were deep among the outlying woodlands. "I had rather your estate lay in some other direction," said the sheriff uneasily. "I like not this forest. God bless us this day, Master Butcher, and keep us from that rogue Robin Hood." "Pooh," said the butcher. "I care not a snap of my finger for aught that Robin Hood could do to me. Best let us ride on. We may come in sight of the beasts at any moment now." They rode on and turned a bend in the way. The butcher reined in his horse and laid his hand on the bridle of the other. "Stop, you, Sir Sheriff, stop," he said. "Here be my horned beasts. What think you of them? Are they not fat and fair to see?" The sheriff gasped in alarm, and his heart began to beat thickly in alarm. The sheriff gasped in wonder, and his heart began to beat thickly in alarm. Before him a herd of 100 of the king's deer were calmly feeding in a grassy glade of the forest. "What is this trick, fellow?" blustered the sheriff. "We come hither to see the cattle." "Nay, nay, Sir Sheriff," laughed the other. "I never promised you aught but horned beasts, and yonder they stand." The sheriff began to feel more and more uneasy. "I tell thee, fellow," he said, I would I were gone, for I like not thy company." "Why, Sir Sheriff," said Robin, "be not in such haste. Here is the bargain I promised you, and I should like you to see some of my friends who will gladly witness it." Thereupon Robin set his horn to his mouth and blew 3 blasts. In a few moments Little John and the whole company of outlaws appeared. When the sheriff saw the outlaws troop out of the wood and surround him, he cried out in fear. He saw that he had been completely trapped, and he turned to the butcher. "I know you now," he cried. "You are Robin Hood himself." "That I am," laughed Robin, "and these are my merry men whom you do not love, Sir Sheriff. Nevertheless, the bargain must be made. Put down the money, Sheriff." And the sheriff was forced to put down every piece of the money he had brought in order to buy the prodigal's estate. Then his horse was turned around, and he was started back to Nottingham, a sadder and a wiser man. Sadder because his treasure house was now more empty than ever, and wiser because he had learned to his cost who the butcher was. And that ends this chapter. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you can get out and enjoy yet another fine day. We've had a real string of them, haven't we? But I hope you can go outside and enjoy some of this. May you stay well, and may God bless. Goodbye.